All right. We'll start in three, two, one. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter where you're watching us from around the globe, I say thank you for allowing us into your homes, but most importantly, into your hearts. If you're watching us on the DBNA television network this afternoon, a sincere thank you and continue to support the network sponsors, and the other outstanding talent and shows on the network. If you're listening to us in podcast form, my man Derrick and I say turn that knob up. We're going to put that flavor in your ear for about an hour. So that's right. It's time to lace them up once again with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. You're about to be coached up. And today we have a return guest to the show, but this time we got the audio and video going here. So Derrick Stafford, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being a part of it, my man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's going to be great. You've been on here with us before, and it was probably a few years ago. And here we are. You're a 30-plus year NBA veteran referee who's retired. 12 NBA playoff finals you've refereed in, 166 playoff games. I want to say almost 1,700 regular season games that you officiated in.
I lost track of the number. I don't keep up with it, but it sounds accurate.
Hey, you're like me. Once you've coached in so many games, they all
Right.
run together, don't they?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Well, Derrick, I appreciate you coming on. We had a great time the first time that you were a guest on the show, and our viewers really enjoyed your stories, from the court. So we'll get into that a little bit. You're living down in Atlanta, correct?
Yeah, right outside of Atlanta. I was born and raised in Atlanta. Right now, I'm in Fayetteville, which is south of the airport, not too far from downtown Atlanta.
There you go. Good for you. Well, let me ask you this. How's the golf game coming?
It's really coming along pretty good. I'm really enjoying myself. I get to practice at my own pace, play when I want to. I play a lot of. It's so hot now. I play 9 holes a lot, but I get out and play as much as I can. I have fun with it. I don't take it too seriously, but I am a serious competitor. But
Uh,
it's fun.
I'll tell you what, my golf game is horrible. I feel like it's one of those sports that challenges you mentally and physically. And I guess
Yes.
just like a jump shooter, I haven't had enough reps, but I get too frustrated when I just hit a worm burner out there.
Uh, it can frustrate you if you let it.
Oh, amen to that. Well, let's talk about your wonderful NBA career. Again, we talked about, 12 NBA finals, almost 1,700 regular season games. How did you get into refereeing, and where did that all start for you?
It's a funny story, and every time I tell someone the story, it just reminds me of what college life was like. Back when I was in school, it was very difficult because I played two sports. I went to Morehouse College where I played football and baseball. I was on a football scholarship, but I love baseball, so I played both sports. And in between time, I needed something to do, and my coaches, my football coach and my baseball coach, started refereeing basketball on the side to make a little money because Morehouse wasn't paying them a lot of money at the time. And so they sort of talked me into it. And one of my friends did it first. And then I went to watch him work a game, and I kind of got excited about it. Just seeing him run up and down the floor, the fans screaming at him. And I was like, this seems like fun. So that's how I got started. And one thing led to another.
Wow. So you started off refereeing some kids and then probably did a little bit of high school and then high school. I think I read somewhere you did some time with the CBA and then, of course, made that jump.
Yeah, I started with kids. I started at, I wouldn't call it the bottom, but I started with the very young kids just to get my feet wet. Probably like 7 and under, 8 and under, had the little small racks. And then I moved up to 12 and under, then to high school, then I started doing some college. Yeah, and the CBA was great. The CBA was a great training program. Nobody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted to be in the NBA. Most of the cities were cold, and but the fans did come out to support the games. The guys that didn't make it at the time, most of those guys were a little bit on the kind of what I would call kind of goofy side. So it was tough repping some of those games because a lot of those guys knew because of their personality and their attitudes, they never would make it in the league. So they were just doing this to buy some time and make a little extra money. So it definitely taught me a lot being in the CBA.
Well, let's talk about that because I've spent some time in the minor leagues myself. I mean, you're talking about, like you said, you've got smaller cities, whether you're in the Dakotas or maybe Montana, and you got those long bus rides. Tell us a little bit about that and how that helped prepare you, once you got to the big show.
Yeah, travel was interesting. There were times where you would have to drive from a major city to a little small city. There were times you'd have to actually take a bus, like you said. And there were times you would be on a little small plane, that seated maybe 20 people, which was nerve wracking, particularly landing during cold climates. But once you got there, most of the cities, they really pulled for their team. They really wanted to win. It was probably the only game in town, unless they had a college football team or something, or baseball, basketball. But at that time, that particular team represented that city. The fans would come out and they would really cheer for their team. And so it prepared you on the mental side as well as the physical side, because the game is totally different now. Back then, it was, if you weren't physical, then that was a problem. You definitely would not make it in the league if they considered you to be soft. So the CBA was a lot of pounding, a lot of banging, a lot of illegal shots, a lot of forearms to the head. So, and you had to manage the game. You really had to manage the game. It didn't do you any good to throw everybody out of the game. So you really tried to manage the game. You learn how to talk to players. You learn how to calm them down. And so I think that really prepared me for the league.
Wow, it's great. Can you remember some of those smaller cities that you were going into?
Oh yeah, I went everywhere from Pensacola, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, South Dakota. Rapid City came on sort of late. Casper, Wyoming. We had a team in Maine at the time, so we had teams pretty much everywhere. Rockford, Illinois is another place I remember very well. And then we had a bigger city like Tampa at one time had a team, Tampa, St. Petersburg. So, but they were very small cities, particularly in the northern region.
Oh, see that's great stuff because I think of some of those small towns that we played in, and like you said, the travel, and you had a little bit of per diem from the owners that you had to try to pick out a restaurant and get
Yes.
something that was still open in those late nights after a game. What was probably one of the better atmospheres as far as CBA teams who just loved their basketball, supported their team, good crowds, and was really raucous?
Oh, Lacrosse, Wisconsin, which I didn't even mention, was probably by far the best. They had a very nice arena. The hotel that we stayed in normally was connected to the arena, so we could kind of walk through the building, have to even go outside. And they filled it up. I don't know how many, I can't remember the seating capacity at the time, but whatever it was, 10, 15,000, they pretty much filled it up every game. So they were really behind their team, really behind their team.
See, I love that because I feel like, the G League was the D League, now the G League. Some of these towns, really support their teams and, they really focus on the development. And just like you as a referee, you're focusing on your development.
Yes.
Joey Crawford was a guest on our show back about a year ago, and he talked about that development being in that Eastern Basketball League. But who were some of the guys like yourself who were really focused and wanted to get to that next level? Were there some other NBA guys who kind of went through the CBA with you that you were kind of able to learn from and get advice from and be mentored from?
Oh, yeah. Because a lot of people don't know this, but your first couple of years in the league, you still have to referee in the CBA, at least at the time. It's not quite as stringent now, I think, with the developmental league because the guys spend so much time there before they get hired. But my first 3 years in the league, I was under contract to work a certain amount of CBA games. So the Javies, the Kenny Mowers, the guys that were just ahead of me, the Bruce Alexanders, came down and worked CBA games. And remember, at that time, we were a two-man system.
That's
So you
right.
got to know each other a whole lot better, and you got a better feel for a guy to whether, as a veteran, you thought he could make it or not. And as a younger guy, you got a chance to see how good a veteran guy was working in that tough league and see his attitude. I mean, knowing that maybe he didn't want to be there, but he had to be there by contract. So it was a different dynamic, but it was fun at the same time. And I learned from a lot of those guys. A lot of those, like Ronnie Nunn was in the CBA. Danny Crawford worked some games with him. So, and then some of the guys I got hired with, Ronnie Garrison, Bob Delaney, EF Rush. EF Rush and I, both from Atlanta, worked a lot of games together. So yeah, we had a nice network. We worked hard, and quite a few of the guys made it.
See, I think that's phenomenal because there truly is a fraternity there, and then you guys are a fraternity of referees, just as we have a fraternity of coaches and assistant coaches and the players, and it really is an elite group of guys. Um, thinking of those CBA times, Derrick, I think this is fun to kind of sit back and reminisce. Of course, you talked about that two-man crew back then before the three-man crews, and there wasn't a lot of technology like we have today. How would you guys sit back after a game and have dialogue after a game in a locker room and assess your performance and what you did and how you would evolve and grow and get better? What did take us what that felt like back in that time in the CBA?
I really have to take my hat off to Derrick Garrison because he was over the NBA referees and also over the referees in the CBA, and he made time for us. I mean, he would send me a videotape in the mail, and we didn't even have the technology back then, but he would put his tape in his VCR. I put my tape in my VCR. He would tell me where to start, and I could be watching the same game at the same time he's watching, and he would be telling me things that he liked, things he didn't like, and help me to improve. There were times we would go to the teams and say, "Hey, man, do y'all have an extra DVD that we can take?" Or matter of fact, VHS tape.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would be taking those tapes and get a chance to look at ourselves in action, see what we were doing, and then just try to get feedback from different people. Uh, every now and then they would send an observer down to see you work as well. But the big thing for us was if you work with an NBA guy to try to get his input, to see what he saw, to see what he felt like you need to work on or what you need to change in order to get to the next level.
Wow. See, I think that's phenomenal because even back then, the fans get so fanatical and they don't realize the time and the effort and the energy and the research that you spend in because for you guys, you just want to get the call right.
Yes,
And I know the fans sometimes lose sight of that because sometimes their passion kind of overflows and
yeah,
they forget that. But for you guys as referees, who are the elite and truly take pride in your craft, I mean, you guys do. I mean, you guys study it just like players study their form, their mechanics, and coaches, we're hard on ourselves to, make sure game adjustments and things. So there truly is a maturation process. And I love hearing you kind of expand on that.
yeah. It's a lot of work. I understand that people want to win. I've been an athlete. I've played. I've gotten on the umpires about strike zone, so I know what it feels like. But I truly believe, at the end of the day, that 99 to 100% of the referees just go out there, particularly on the pro level, just work hard every night, try their best to get the plays right, and try not to let anything on the outside influence what they do. I truly believe that. Unfortunately, with the Donnegan situation, I can't say 100%, but I can say that 99% of the people that I know and that I work with, we just went out there and tried to get the plays right. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and see, and I can respect you saying that because, one bad apple did not spoil the whole bunch. I know, a lot of stories came to light with that kind of stuff, but for the most part, you guys, I mean, you took a lot of pride in what you did, how you did it, how you let the flow of the game and, your interactions with players and coaches. That's all part of that process, that part of that training and part of that development that you guys go through and that you have. There's a lot of pride in that.
Absolutely. I mean, we all want to be the best. I went out every night trying to be 100% right, knowing that it was virtually impossible not to get everything right. Even with the three-man crew, we don't have enough coverage. I mean, I would love to see them go four-man. I know it's expensive, and I know they maybe probably would never do it, but I run four-man in a few camps, and I can see how it can help in a lot of ways because the lead official on the baseline doesn't have to rotate, and by him rotating, there sometimes we have blind spots. But we're still good enough to get the job done with the system that we have now. And I just hope that people understand that we just try to referee every play, one play at a time. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and again, I'm glad you're speaking on that because, again, I know fans get so passionate. And of course, your career was winding down when the Twitterverse was really building up.
Oh,
But,
yeah,
and I'm sure you guys can hear, fans chirping and coaches, getting, pretty crazy about it as well. But again, we know that you guys are human. You're going to make mistakes just like we as coaches, we're going to make mistakes and players are going to make mistakes. But it's that accountability and that transparency that that I feel like, you being one of the well-respected NBAs and a referee, I'm glad we get to hear your voice and you really share with the viewers and the listeners today how much pride you truly take in your craft.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I,
good
I,
stuff
I,
there.
I can still feel the passion now as we talk about it, because I went out every night to be the best I could be, and I just wanted the best team to win, and I didn't want to play a factor at all in deciding who won a game. I didn't want to do it. It would be better for me if I never had to blow my whistle. I have no problem just run up and down the court and letting them score.
Yeah,
But I'm there to enforce the rule to make sure the game is played fairly. So the players dictate the fact that I need to make calls.
yeah, no doubt about it. And then, of course, as long as you were in the game, you think 3 decades. Think of some of how the style of play changed, how some of the rules changed the way the style of play was, the product on the court. I mean, there was a lot of changes within 3 decades. What were some of the bigger rule changes that you remember coming down that you're like, oh, wow, we got to adjust to this and we got to make sure that all the players and captains before the game start know and remember this? Because again, you're just there to do your job.
I think the biggest change, and it really became a problem, and now they're trying to reel it back in, I think was when they made the adjustment on the offensive player being able to go at the defensive player. Because originally, a defensive player could jump and not even be vertical, and the offensive player could still go up and take his jump shot. Now, if he got fouled in the process of that guy jumping and him going up to take his shot, it was a foul. But we never allowed an offensive player to go after the defensive player.
Yeah,
But
kind of get in
then
his space.
then a couple of people decided that if the offensive player was capable of faking the defender and causing him to jump, that the offensive player had the right now to go draw that contact as he was shooting. See, I never agreed with that. So that was a big adjustment for me to have to try and make that call, because even though the defensive player, yeah, he leaped first and maybe he was coming at the offensive player, or if he was going to the side, it didn't get, in my opinion, it didn't get an offensive player the right to now go after him and draw a foul. And
There
so
you go. Yeah. So I mean,
we stretched that too far.
yeah, and because now you see the James Harden, with their swing through and drawing the contact, or like you say, the pump fake and then jumping in to the defensive player. I'm hearing that they're trying to get that rule change, as you said, reel that back. One of the tougher judgment calls I think it has to make, goaltending or a charge. To you, which was the harder of those two to call, the goaltend or the charging call?
Well, they were both probably equally difficult to call. Goaltending, because it happens so fast and it comes from out of nowhere, same as a block charge. The good thing about a block charge, depending on what position I'm in on the floor, I can kind of prepare for it, because once I see the offensive player driving to the basket, now I can go find my defenders and see who's going to try to draw the charge, because my trail would usually be bringing that play all the way to the basket. Goaltending, a guy could just be driving, take a shot. The guy can come from out of nowhere and block the shot. The only good thing about missing a goaltend, you don't put a foul on anybody.
Yeah,
You miss a block charge, you putting a foul on somebody that they didn't deserve to foul. So for me, trying to get the block charge right was way more important in my mind than a goaltend. I could live with missing a goaltend, but I didn't want to put a guy on the bench. I didn't want to give him his third foul. I didn't want to foul a guy out on a block charge that I wasn't sure about. So I worked really hard to try to make sure I picked up the defender so I would know whether he was moving or not when the contact was created. But goaltending, just sometimes you can't prepare for it. You're just going to get surprised. And we have guards, 6'3", 6'4", that'll come out of nowhere and block and goaltend a ball. So you can be surprised on goaltending.
Well, and if you think about it, it feels like that's a lot of area to have to cover, because you got to watch the feet and then you're watching the play. And then all of a sudden the play is above the rim. So you got to take your focus from the floor to above the rim and make a split-second call on where that ball is in its trajectory. So I can imagine how challenging that would be, especially with the speed and the athleticism and them getting so far above the rim nowadays.
Yeah, very difficult. But like I said, the only saving grace is now we can kind of go to replay and check it out if we call it. And also, it doesn't put a foul on anybody. I mean, it's 2 points that maybe you missed one way or the other, and you still got to go back and look at it. You still have to slow it down and make sure the ball was actually coming down. So there's still some gray area there, but that block charge, you're putting a foul on somebody, so you need to get that play right.
See, I love that honesty. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Derrick Stafford, a 30-year NBA veteran referee on the Coach Scott Field Show with us today. We're having a great time, telling stories and journeys and talking about, development. And I mean, this guy is a class act, and I've been able to see some of his social media stuff. And I'm gonna tell you what, faith-based and just a wonderful guy. So for him to be on the show with us today, I feel uplifted and just thrilled to have you, Derrick. So thanks again for being on here with us.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's kind of get more into those rules and the change of game. Um, Thinking about how back in say like the Shaq era where the game was where it was so physical and there was more banging and they'd bump cutters, and now it's more offensively driven. Do you feel that those rules are better suited for the game and harder for the referee, or vice versa?
I think the game today is definitely much easier to referee because it's so wide open and the rules are so specified. When I first came into the league, we always had a huge center and we always had a power forward. And those people were very, very difficult to referee because you had to figure out how much contact to allow. And if you remember, there was a time where we just had to have a feel for the game before they put in the forearm and the one hand and the bent elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was never in play once when I was first hired. So we just had to assume how much contact we could allow because there was no guideline. And every team had a power forward, every team had a big center, and everybody, of course, we all always had fast guards. I mean, we've always had those. So that made the game much difficult. And the game was much more physical, and it was much more physical by rule. So they were allowed to be more physical. They were allowed to pop somebody when they went through the lane. They were allowed to chuck somebody when they went through the lane. Well, you can't do that now. I mean, you have to step in front of them, step to the side of them, but you can't just deliver a blow. So all of that was accepted. All of that was legal. So today's game is not as physical. It's way more spread out. More teams are taking threes. So that means more teams are taking jump shots. So to referee the game today is much easier than it was when I first got hired.
Yeah, and like you said, the technology and now the coaches challenge. And
Right.
are you glad that those things were implemented? Because again, you want to get it right, and now that you got the technology to support your calls, to say that something was right, or hey, you know what, my bad, we changed the call because we can't affect the outcome of the game. Are you glad to see the coaches challenge in the game?
I'm very happy to see the coaches challenge. The one thing that I wish they would do, but I think it all boils down to transparency and people not trusting the league, so to speak. I would much rather the guys in the booth in the replay center look at it, make a decision. Let's keep playing.
There you go. Yeah,
We
see, I
waste a
like
lot of
that because
time, with us walking over, putting on the headset, looking at the play 3 or 4 times. Hey man, have a guy in there, have him look at it, review it, let the table know what it is, and let's keep moving.
yeah, in other words, let him make the call, but voice down to you what that call is, and then boom, you go with it, because that way you're going to have more flow to the game. Less time is going to be spent over on the sideline where it's going to, a team can lose its rhythm. I think that's a great suggestion right there. Just let the guy in the studio make the call, radio it down to you, and say, okay, we're going this way. We got, this is the call, this is the clock, reset the clock, boom, now we go.
And it's no emotion involved. The guy's looking at the play, trying to make a decision. Now you got the crew chief going over, and here's one of the things that people don't think about. If it's the crew chief call, how likely is he going to go over and change his own call? Now, if it's one of his partners' call, he wouldn't have a problem going over changing one of his partners' call. That's where the human element comes into the game. But he's got to go over there and change his own call. No, let somebody upstairs look at it for everybody, make a decision. Bam, let's keep playing. But
See, yeah.
so many people think that games are fixed or that games are set up. So that's just another way for somebody to complain about the fact that the league is actually making the call. The league is deciding what to do on that play. No, it's another referee in Secaucus looking at the play for the first time or the second time and deciding what he wants to do. But
Yeah.
and I understand how they want the transparency. They want the referee to come over and look at it for himself. So now the fan actually believes that he's making a call just based on the information. But I think fans will understand over time, and I think they'll appreciate the fact that the game is moving faster.
See, and I'm with you because to me, it's all about the product. It's all about the flow, and it's all about, the aesthetics. Let's keep that
Right.
thing going so that way, the last 4 minutes of the game is not stretched out to a 25-minute game to play 4 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see, I'm with you on that, Derrick. I've got to agree, and I'd like to see that. If there were any rules that you wish they would change right now, what would be one rule you'd like to see that change? Is it that offensive player jumping into the defensive player?
Oh yeah, I would definitely like that. I would like the rule to just simply say that anytime an offensive player is fouled in the act of shooting and he's making a normal shot, it's a foul. If he deviates from taking a normal shot, then either it's a no call or a foul on the offense.
Yeah, and see, and I like that because again, you're talking about the flow of the game, and
Yep.
players are smart quickly, and they're going to see how calls are being made during the flow of the game, and they're going to adjust how they play to how calls are being made because all players they just want consistency, and you guys can provide that consistency, but yet every time the player brings the ball up the floor, it's going to look a little different from your perspective of what's going on in that game.
Yes, our players have always, over the years, and even today, they're very smart and they will adjust. It doesn't take them very long to figure out how things are going, and they'll adjust, and they'll come up with something else. They'll come up with something else we have to figure out. They're always a step ahead of us.
Anything to gain a competitive edge. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
that's how competitive these guys are.
Yes.
See, I love hearing this. Well, let's get into some stories because again, I bet you've got some great stories, and I know our viewers loved our stories. And you told a story the last time that we were on. You were talking about Scottie Pippen, and you basically just told Scottie Pippen if he wanted that call, don't be soft and don't get punked. And then I love people love that story. So share some more stories of like interaction that goes on the court that people up in the top row that they would never hear that communication because we as coaches we know there's a lot of dialogue and there's a lot of communication on the floor with players and referees, but share some of those stories with players that kind of stick out into your mind that you're just like, really, are you really asking me that?
Well, I've had some great stories over the years, and I've even considered writing a book. I don't know if I would do it or not, but
Oh,
I,
you should,
I
you
think
should,
about
it'd
it
be gold.
sometimes. But it's most of it's been good. I haven't really had any real bad situations. But I have two. People like to hear about Michael Jordan, and I have two Michael Jordan stories that are, I guess, will be kind of funny for the fans. The only time I ever had MJ in a game where I just felt like he wasn't himself was in Dallas one night, and they were playing the Mavericks, and the Mavericks team wasn't that good at the time, and Chicago was winning, but it was just something about Michael that night, just like, man, he's not here tonight. So I had a decent relationship with him where I could talk to him. So I walked up to him and I said, MJ, I said, what's up, man? You're not feeling it tonight, huh? And he said, Derrick, I made a mistake. And I said, what? He said, I should have played 18. I played 36 today.
Loves that golf, man.
Man, and you could tell he was a little fatigued. And I could not believe that he had played 36 holes on a day of game. And I'm just looking at him
Wow.
like, are you freaking serious? He said,
Wow.
yeah, man, I should have played 18. I don't know what I was thinking. So I guess Phil had given them the day off. They didn't have shoot around or anything. And he went straight to the golf course and played all day. And I could just see it was something sluggish about his game. I didn't know what it was, whether he was sick or whatever, but that's one story. Now, another story that's pretty funny. Charles Barkley, who I'm still good friends with, we became friends over the years, and so he took some referees. He took some players and a couple referees over to Japan. We went over to Japan, and they played a 2-day tournament, and so we had to go to practice with them, and pretty much did everything with them for 2 days. Played golf, the whole 9 yards. So Charles, being Charles, liked to be center of attention. So I guess he decided it was pick on Derrick Stafford day, right? So he gets on the bus and he starts talking and he's telling all the guys, yeah, Alonzo Mourning, Gary Payton, quite a few guys. Shaq went over there, quite a few guys were there playing. And a nice little 2-day tournament, all-star game. They made some money. Everybody had a great time. And so he decided he was going to talk about how powerful he was and how great he was for the league and how I would never throw him out of game. So I said to him, I said, Charles, I said, look, man, this is not something you should be doing. I said, let's not talk on the bus about me not throwing you out of game or being afraid. Let's not go there. Oh man, I can say what I want to say. And these guys know, they know I'm Charles Barkley and they know what I mean to the league. Dude, you ain't crazy. You won't throw me out of game. And I said, Charles, you really want to go there? And so he kept on, man, kept on. So I was quiet, wouldn't say a word. So finally, after he ragged me all the way to the arena, I said, guys, I want y'all to understand something. I like Charles a lot. I said, but what he did today was uncalled for. And I said, I promise you, I told every superstar on the bus, I said, I promise you, I'm going to throw him out the first time I see him next year. Everybody started laughing, it was funny, and they thought I was kidding. So, I mean, he had ragged for so long that I had made up my mind. So at the time, he's playing for Houston. So I go into Houston, he's forgotten all about it. And I'm not saying a word, just refereeing the game. And he finally said something to me, and I just kind of shrugged it off like, okay, it's your warning.
Yeah.
So we were getting ready to shoot a free throw, and he came down the lane with the ball, and he was playing with the ball, and he bounced it off my foot. I threw him on one technical.
That's good stuff right there.
I threw him on one technical, and Rod Thorne called me like, did you throw Barkley tonight? I said, yeah. He said, what happened? I said, Rod, he said a couple things to me. I warned him. I said, then he came down the lane. I said, I don't know what was wrong with Charles tonight. I said, he bounced the ball, slammed the ball off my foot, and it was on video. So they saw him bounce the ball off my foot. But Rod kind of knew that, we kind of had a decent relationship. So he really wanted to figure out what the heck was going on. It wasn't anything personal going on. So I said, yeah, and he threw the ball off my foot. And then Rod said, we sure that's it, Derrick? I said, yeah, that's it. He threw it off my foot. So you threw him on one? I said, yeah, I threw him on one. I said, I already warned him earlier. And so that was the end of the story. So I didn't get in trouble, but Charles stayed mad for quite a while. But once he realized what he had done over in Japan, he knew he had it coming.
Yeah. So did he see you and after the game in the locker room, like, come on, man? Because I'm sure he had to jaw you a little bit.
No, he wouldn't. He didn't speak to me for probably about 30 days.
Oh, that's good stuff right there. Here, I mean, you're talking about some great names. I mean, you're talking about Barkley, you're talking about Jordan, and talking about the endurance of those players because, him going out playing 36 holes of golf and then coming in and playing with that high motor that he's always been known for is just phenomenal how good these athletes are. But a referee like yourself, how do you maintain your physical shape? How do you maintain your mental, shape? Because I mean, 82 regular game season, there's a lot of travel. There's a lot of wear and tear on you. How do you maintain, your physical, fitness?
I think for everybody it's different. Everybody has a different metabolism. For me, the scale was my friend. So I did not kid myself at all. If I stayed up late one night and had a little too much to eat or had a couple of drinks, because I'm not a big drinker, when I got to the next arena, I would weigh. If I picked up a couple of pounds and I knew I need to slack up for the next couple of days, but I tried to work out at least 4 or 5 days a week, no matter how many games I had. I would get up in that city, give me an hour workout in, not too hard because you're going to be running hard that night, but just enough to keep your body flowing and to maintain that weight. To me, maintaining your weight was the biggest thing. It's not a lot you can do to change your structure, but if you know what you need to weigh and you try to maintain that weight, because a lot of people just don't weigh. It just, well, my pants fit okay. Nothing, it's a little tight, but it's okay. But that scale doesn't lie. The scale doesn't lie.
There you
weigh
go.
185 and you weigh in Dallas and you weigh 190. Hey, you picked up 5 pounds.
Yeah. Gotcha. So did you spend a lot of time on like the exercise bike because that way there's less pounding on the joints and the knees and the hips and or what would you do to get that cardio? Was it just a brisk walk? Because again, getting up and down that court, for 48 minutes, there's a lot of wear and tear on that referee's body, especially with the speed of the game.
Man, I wish that's why I try to talk to younger referees now and tell them I wish that when I was coming along, I knew what I know now because I don't. I used to run outside all the time in the summer. Eddie and I
Wow.
used to run miles. We ran on asphalt, and then we started going to the track, and then we would run on the track. So we put in a lot of hard road work because we knew what it took to run up and down that court and not get tired for 48 minutes. And then in weight work, you put in a limited amount of weight work to make sure you maintain some strength. But running was the key, conditioning was the key. And then as I got older and started going to see a chiropractor and things of that nature, then I learned to get on the bicycle more, get on the elliptical more. I would ride my bike at home, but that was so dangerous because people can't drive. So I got away from that. So, but riding that bicycle, doing the elliptical, and now I tell younger referees, just get that walking also. I mean, you can walk 2 days a week, and then you can also go to the gym and put in some road work because you're in this for the long haul. You're not in it for the short haul. So even though right now your body can maintain this vigorous workout you're putting in, but it's gonna take a toll on you in the next 5 to 10 years.
See, I think that's well said because again, your body is your asset, and if your body can't go, well, then you now lose a source of income. So it is that long haul. So I'm sure ice in the knees and cold baths and yeah, I mean, you guys got to take care of yourself and maintain just like a player does.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know because we're not put on any type of injury report or that kind of thing. But hey, during the year I had knee surgery. 1 year I had back surgery. I mean, people don't know, but that's what you go through in order to maintain your profession.
Yeah, see, again, there's a lot of wear and tear, Derrick, and again, I think you guys at the elite level don't get enough praise and respect that you deserve. Because, yeah, I mean, you're a part of the game, and I know you guys don't want to be seen in the front of the game because you'd rather the play dictate. But man, you guys are so vital to the product and to the process that I mean, you guys just do a phenomenal job. I got even though we're supposed to hate each other because I'm a coach and you're a referee,
Right.
I got nothing but love for you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. I respect your job as well. I mean, I've been doing a little work for Minnesota, so I've been able to see the other side, and I see the pressure that they're up against in terms of drafting, the pressure they're up against in terms of putting the right on the
So true.
floor and trying to call the right play, trying to run the right defense, and trying to keep everybody happy, get people get enough playing time. They're worried about their contract. Man, it's a lot. It's a lot on the coach's side that I never thought about when I was refereeing. And I'm glad I didn't, but it's a lot. It's a lot on the other side too that I'm thankful that I've now had a chance to see that I was not totally aware of when I was working.
Wow. Well, it's very kind of you to say, but again, I think there's just a mutual respect here for knowing how great you were and the high character of person that you were for you to maintain as long as you did. And I just again just the utmost respect, my man.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
let's tell some more stories because again, these stories are awesome. How about with coaches? Was there ever an interaction with a coach that you're just like, oh man, on your calendar, you got that flight, you're going into a certain city. I know I'm going to have to deal with this guy. Was there ever a guy that you're just like, okay, here we go?
Uh, I think there was a time when I had it with Larry Brown. I think there was a time when I had it with Pat Riley. The one thing about your job is, you have your peaks and you have your valleys, but every now and then you have an opportunity to talk to a person, and then once you get a chance to talk to them, it puts a different flavor on the communication. So a lot of times, particularly with Daryl Garrison, he pretty much taught me to not say anything. He pretty much taught me that, and I tell this to young officials today, a statement needs no response. A question needs to be answered. A lot of coaches
Mm,
don't understand that. So if I go walk over to a coach and he says, Derrick, you missed that play. Well, Daryl had taught me that was a statement. No need for me to respond. So I didn't respond. So if I walked over and the guy said, Derrick, what you see on that play? Now he just asked me a question. Now I can give him my opinion, or I can give him my point of view at that particular moment. Because you never know you're right until you get a chance to go back and look at the video. I mean, there are plays that you get right, but there are plays that are 50-50. You just not 100%. And you won't be able to validate until you look at it on replay. I think the better referees only may have one or two plays like that per night, If you have a lot of plays like that per night, you're going to have a problem. You're going to miss a lot of plays. But you had those one or two where you're not 100% on. And I think some coaches took that as arrogance, as me not speaking to them. So I had to learn over the years, and Larry Brown was one, Pat Riley was one. I had to learn, okay, I need to communicate with these guys better so they understand that I understand the game. I know what I'm doing. They need to hear my voice. And then once they hear your voice and they understand that you speak fairly decent English and that you pretty much comprehend the rule book, then they look at you from a different perspective, especially if you explain plays to them. So you have to get to a point where you're not explaining every night, all night, but you have to pick your moments where you let them know, okay, Derrick Stafford can't speak. I'm fairly intelligent. I heard what you said. I understood your question, and here's my answer. And that made life a little bit easier. But with Pat, it became a little. I got in trouble too for this. This was a pretty good story you may not know about. So I get to Miami, and they're playing a game, and so I'm watching the game, get ready for my game the next night. I think they're playing back to back. And so this is a year Miami is really losing. I don't remember what year it was, but Pat Riley is on TV that night. They're interviewing him, and he just complaining about the officiating and went on and on and on. And they lost another game, went on. And so I'm just sitting there looking at him like, man, Pat, come on, man. So now that night, I called myself being a little bit funny. The game was about over, and I said to Pat, I said, man, don't complain to me. Complain to TV. And I was just, call myself being a little bit funny. And he kind of took it that way too. He didn't come at me. He didn't take it that way. But one of their writers heard me say it. And he put it in the paper the next day. Referee Derrick Stafford told Pat Riley, don't complain to me, complain to TV, like it did the other night or whatever I said. Sports Illustrated picked it up. They ran it in Sports Illustrated. Man, Rod Thorne was freaking livid. Man, he called me up. He was so hot, mad and hot. And I said, Rod, I said, I try to be funny sometimes. I said, man, I was only trying to be funny. I said, I don't even know who heard this. I said, I was talking to Pat. And so one of the writers, I think it was Ira, had picked it up, put it in the local paper. And somebody from Sports Illustrated thought it was funny. And they put it in Sports Illustrated. Man, I got in all kind of trouble about it. So eventually I had to apologize to Pat. And I think he knew it was not, I didn't mean anything by it, but it was just one of those nights where they were losing. I said the wrong thing. Somebody heard it. So you can only imagine what it's like now. You really can't say much of anything now. Back then you could say stuff and not really have to worry about it. But that spread so fast, like in 2 days, Sports Illustrated happened to have a magazine coming out. I think they came out like once a week, and they happened to get it just in time to get it in.
Wow.
And that Sports Illustrated, and there I was, Sports Illustrated, telling Pat Riley, don't cry to me, cry to TV. And they were losing at the time as well. So the owner pissed off, everybody mad. So
that molehill became a mountain in a hurry. So like you said, with technology like it is, everybody's got a phone. Someone's going to be taking a picture. Someone's got a video going. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that can be picked up or taken out of context that the Twitterverse just goes crazy on right now. I couldn't imagine being in your shoes and having to answer for everything, because you guys are just out there as humans doing your job the best you can. And somebody who's may have had a few cold ones there on the front row thought they heard something and tell something, and then you know how that escalates. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. It spreads like wildfire. You can really get yourself in trouble. You have to be really. I retired at the right time, man. You really got to be careful now what you say, how you say it. And back in the day when I first got in the league, I mean, you could say to a player, "Hey man, shut up. I don't want to hear you again." You can't talk like that anymore. It's over. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Well, how about when you're officiating a game with Shaquille O'Neal, a big physical body who played powerful, who drew a lot of contact, made a lot of contact? How challenging was that for a referee? Because he's so strong, he can play through a lot of physical contact and not to let a player gain advantage. But was it challenging for you to see two 7-footers at 300 pounds banging each other, and where that call comes from and how to make that call?
Oh yeah, that's extremely difficult to try to referee two guys of that size or one guy of that size and another guy much smaller that's really got to do a lot of pushing and holding just to try to hold his arm. So Shaquille definitely was probably the most forceful center that I ever refereed, because our other centers, even like Kareem, I mean, he kind of moved away from the contact a little bit. He absorbed the contact, laid it up. He had a more finesse type game. Even Bob Lanier had more of a finesse type game. Wes Unseld, who wasn't quite, a 7-footer, was a little more physical, bigger. But those guys, most of the centers, they were scorers. So a lot of the centers had a little bit of finesse. Shaquille could score, but he was just so powerful, and he liked the contact. He liked playing hard nose, what I call hard nose basketball. That's the way he played. So he was extremely difficult to referee, because you didn't want to put a guy in foul trouble who was holding on for dear life, who was just trying to hold his own and just trying to keep him away from the basket. But then you didn't want to penalize Shaq for being, hey, a physical specimen and let people beat on him. So
That's right.
very tough,
Oh,
very
yeah.
tough.
I can only imagine how hard that would be because, he's going to complain that, man, he's getting fouled more than anybody in the league. But yeah, he's so powerful, so strong. Someone could, slap down on him and he would just go up and dunk anyway. And it probably happens so quick. I mean, you can't see everything. Let's just be honest, especially when you're that powerful.
Right.
So,
Yeah, he definitely probably deserved some more calls than what he got. But on the flip side, luckily he wasn't a great free throw shooter, so he didn't really complain a lot about going to the line.
hey, that is what it is right there, right?
Yeah, yes,
Well,
yes.
we've got about 8 to 10 more minutes, and having so much fun. Who were some of the players that you just enjoyed being on the court with? I mean, just had good energy about them, had that good aura. You just had always had good interactions, or you just enjoyed their style of play. Were there players like that really stood out in your mind as you went through your career?
I think it's so many guys that I could say that about that I'm almost scared to even call names. But man, we've had so many great players, and what people don't realize, seeing these guys play at this level every single night, no matter what the situation is. The first guy that comes to mind for me, of course, is Michael Jordan, because he brought it every single night. I mean, he played extremely hard every single night and wanted to win every single game. Another guy in the modern era is Russell Westbrook. I mean, this guy plays extremely hard every single night. And then we have a lot of guys that play hard, great personalities that I had decent relationships with. I could talk to on the floor. I mean, just like uh, Allen Iverson and I battled for years, and then finally we got to know each other a little bit better, and he realized I wasn't trying to take anything from him. So working his games became more of a treat, more of a pleasure, and I could respect his ability a little bit more, because now we had a decent relationship. Bill in Washington, I mean, just a pleasant guy, just a great shooter. Curry. I mean, and another guy that I like a lot too, I like Draymond. I like Draymond plays hard. He gets on your nerves sometimes, but he plays extremely hard. He wants to win. And Kevin Durant, another guy who's just silky smooth, who can post up, who can shoot from the outside, and who played hard every night, and who doesn't say a lot. So I hate to call names because we have so many great guys. And then I like Charles. Charles, my buddy. He played hard. For his size, he was outstanding player. I mean, people don't realize he was only like 6'4", playing power forward, running, but they didn't realize how fast he was with his size. So that's another guy who played hard every night. He played hard, kept you on your toes, complained all the time, but I loved it. I mean, I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, see, and let me ask you this because there's so many great athletes, and to be that elite 1% that competes at that highest level every night, whether it's a Kobe or a LeBron or a Curry or again, the list goes on and on. Was there ever a time where you got that whistle in your mouth and you're sprinting down the court and you catch the flash of a movement, maybe a crossover or a dunk, and you're just like, wow? Was there ever like a wow moment for you when you're running down the court and see a player just make a phenomenal play?
Yeah, before I say that, let me add this too. Hey man, Kobe Bryant. I'll be remiss not to bring his name up. I mean, this guy was a phenomenal basketball player, a phenomenal person, And I mean, he competed like MJ every night. So I got to put him in that category. And I got to give LeBron his props. LeBron did a lot for the league. He's taken us on to another level, and he's an extremely talented athlete. Probably the most physical specimen that I've ever seen. I mean, even comparing him to Shaq, I still think he's the most physical specimen just because of his size, strength, and speed.
Right. It's like Karl Malone playing guard. That's a big body doing with a lot
Yes,
of agility.
yes. So what was your question again? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Was there ever a time where you're just running down the
Oh,
court, but
oh,
yet a
oh.
player just wows you with an offensive move, or you're just like, man, you like, wow, I'm glad I was here to see that.
Man, the craziest play I've ever seen, and I wish I could remember what game and I could go back and find it because the dunks didn't surprise me. I knew how high these guys could jump and the block shots. You knew all that was part of the game. But Westbrook, he was bringing the ball up the court, and he had the ball stolen one night. And so when it was stolen, I don't know if the other player had come all the way down the court or he was at half court or whatever, but he was like a snowbird. So he was almost on the other end about to get a layup. So Russell just took off running, and I could not believe he stopped and jumped and caught that pass.
Wow.
I mean, that was one play one night where I went, did he just do that? I
Wow.
mean, he stopped and jumped and intercepted that pass to another guy that was on the other end that was getting ready to catch it for a layup. And he just took like 3, 4 quick steps running, jump, and I could not believe it. And it was
Yeah.
not a bad pass. I mean, it was
Right.
a pass that should have been there for a layup. But that night, I mean, to me, I would love to go back and see the tape. But to me, when they say jump out the gym, he jumped out the gym that night. And I don't think he
Wow.
could do that again. I've never seen
Wow.
anybody jump that high fast and intercept that pass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
that was my one moment. Yes.
yeah. See, that sounds like something that you only hear at a barber shop that it becomes legend. But hearing it from you, who did it for 30 years, that's nothing but props right there.
No, it was incredible.
Love hearing that. Well, we just got a couple minutes left. In all the places that you've traveled, in all the cities, in all the overnight flights, what was your favorite restaurant and why?
Oh wow. I still have to give my boys in Atlanta their props. Chops in Atlanta is still probably my favorite restaurant out of every restaurant in the country. And I've been to different countries, and I've been a lot of great restaurants all over. And I guess I'm being a homer, so forgive me for being a homer, but Chops in Atlanta. So if you're ever in Atlanta, you get a chance to go to Chops, or you're ever in Atlanta and you got time, give me a call, I'll take you to Chops. Hey man, I'm not a celebrity there. I don't go there a whole lot. It's not like I'm gonna walk in, everybody's gonna know me, but it's still my most favorite restaurant in the country.
Oh wow, that sounds pretty awesome. I may have to take you up on that. And if you get yourself
Yes.
back out here, I reside in Salt Lake City right now. So man, if you're ever out here traveling, man, Derrick, come stay at my place. We'll treat you to some good food. We'll get you out for some beautiful outdoors hiking and
All
fishing, and
right.
we got some beautiful golf courses here too, Derrick.
All right. I appreciate it. Yeah, I love Salt Lake City. It's a great city. It's a well-kept secret.
It's true. It's true. Now
Yes.
it closes
Yes.
down earlier than most places, but it's a
Yes.
beautiful city.
Yes, it is. Love Salt
Uh,
Lake.
Derrick, it's been a lot of fun. God bless you, my friend. We got to have you come back because I feel like we've only just barely, scratched the surface on the stories and the fun things that we could tell. I'm a huge fan and thank the world of you. But thank you so much for again being a guest here on the Coach Scott Field Show, my man.
Scott, thank you a lot. God bless you and your family as well, and stay safe, my friend.
You got it. Hey, get out here to Salt Lake City. Let's go hang out and have some fun.
You got it. Sounds great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, 30-year NBA veteran Derrick Stafford, guest on the Coach Scott Field Show. It's been a wonderful time listening to his stories and allowing him to share his journey. We're thrilled to have him because it's wonderful guys like this that drive this show and make it great. Stay tuned for another episode coming up real soon. It's been a lot of fun. Derrick, nothing but love, brother. Thank you.
Peace.